After the first church council in Jerusalem, at about 50 AD, recorded in Acts 15, Paul was ready to revisit the churches in Asia Minor that he planted on the first missionary journey with Barnabas. Barnabas set off with John Mark, and Paul will leave with Silas, another Roman citizen, and they'll pick up Timothy on the way. And they're going to spend their time in Asia Minor until a vision happens. Paul receives a vision from a man in Macedonia, in the region around Philippi where I'm standing. In that vision, the man is calling, "Please come and help us." And Paul and his team discern that this is the Holy Spirit, and what's about to happen is the birth of the Christian church in Europe. And I'd like to give you a little background about what's happening here historically and about the significance of this area. Philippi, this city, is named after Philip, the father of Alexander the Great. This is ancient Macedonia, the cradle of Hellenism, and the Hellenization that took place under Alexander the Great's rapid expansion all the way to the border of India. This was the cradle of Greek civilization, the birthplace of Aristotle, not too far away. And it's strategically located on the Via Ignatia, or the Ignatian Way, is running right here, right beside me, and it will lead right down to the port of Neapolis, the port that will serve this city and the port into which Paul brought the gospel when he responded to the vision. So imagine the city that Paul walks into. He comes up from the port and he walks this way, a road that actually leads all the way to Rome. And in this Roman colony, Paul is confronted by a completely marble forum. Imagine all the pillars that were up, the residential area behind me with all of these open air walkways that were along the side of which there were water fountains and shaded areas, beautiful residential area, temples near here and up above, stairs that lead up into that area. The Acropolis is up above me. Over on this side is where the magistrates would have had their offices. And so when you think about the story that takes place, Paul is going to be confronted here on this bema, this platform. He's going to be confronted here by a mob that's gathering in this area, and probably the local magistrates are coming from this area to meet with him here, and they're going to put him in jail, which happens to be right up above us on this hillside. That's the traditional site of the prison where Paul was sent, convicted without being sentenced, put in jail overnight, and that's where he and Silas sung their way to an earthquake, and the Roman centurion, or the Roman guard that was in charge of them, ended up coming to faith that night. So think about this site in terms of its Hellenistic background, its Roman background, and all the history that preceded Paul's visit, and now visit with me what happens after Paul's visit. So we're somewhere after 50 AD, Paul comes to this site, he ends up in jail, and as we read in the book of Philippians, there's a church here. A church that began with Lydia, the first European convert, her household, and the household of the Roman guard, and now the oldest European church that exists today, the Octagon Church, right behind me from the early 300s. Sometime soon after Constantine's conversion, a church is built here with beautiful mosaics, and other churches populate the area. So imagine, you think about Alexander the Great coming from this region, this rapid expansion of the Hellenistic Empire about 330 BC, and then go to 330 AD, and now you're talking about the era of Constantine, when all of these sites will show the remarkable influence of the new faith that was introduced with the Apostle Paul, and how that conversion reshaped a whole country.